Library bosses are probably the most profitable boss to farm, since their drop rate for silver tokens is quite high, with an average of 20 tokens per run, and these tokens are the most demanded commodity in the game. I already made dedicated videos for each of these bosses, but even to this day, they don't seem to be commonly farmed, so this video hopefully sparks more interest on these bosses, with a different concept of going over a full run recording and adding some insight. With that said, for starters, the recommended level is around the 600 average. It's mostly about being comfortable running through the secret library. I recommend to start with Mazzinor, which is located to the northeast, under the earth section, but the run can be done through the ice section, so gear up for ice damage, and use firebombs as you run through. It's always recommended to run together as long as you are actually trying to block off the creatures. Otherwise, mag clicking and losing aggro of creatures is what results on people getting trapped. Because this boss is the easiest to get to, I would even recommend to at least do this boss as often as you can, if the entire run seems too hard or time consuming. As for this boss, stack up on as much energy protection you got. Once inside the room, the EK needs to put the boss on the east wall in the corner, and then have an RP or another EK help with trapping it. Rest of the shooters just stand north and attack with the Thieves, Energy or Terra. Once the boss turns into a sphere, AoE down the elementals and have shooters step on the vortex. If you are transformed into a knowledge elemental, then you won't get hit by the energy attack when he goes back, which for the record is actually multiple energy explosions in the room that can stack on top of each other. However, by being on the right side of the wall, you only get hit by one, but if you are in the middle, then you get hit multiple times and EKs can get headshot. As the EK on this spot, with just pendant, void boots and imbue armor, I was taking around 4k damage. Without proper energy protection, I will get hit for around the 5k. Keep in mind it's important to just tank it without moving and keeping the boss trapped, so both players trapping it should be able to withstand the damage from the energy UE. EK should always be safe, and if the one north is RP, then at least should be 600. If needed, he could also take the vortex, but always prioritize the mages. Continue this way until the boss dies, and that's it. I highly recommend to wait 2 seconds before stopping on the vortex when the boss changes forms, since the transformation of the knowledge elementals lasts just enough. The first couple times, you should maybe manage it right before the UE happens and then take it off after. Once the boss dies, leave through the same path you came and this time head towards the energy section. Keep your eyes protection until you start seeing the energy monsters and then switch. Also change the fire bomb to poison bomb as the books and Ender Guardians don't walk over that. For the other creatures, you might want to use magic walls in open and optional servers. Follow this path and you will get to the boss room. For this boss, you get teleported and trapped inside magic walls constantly. These walls can be damaged, but be mindful they reflect damage back to you, so avoid using EVs while inside the walls. We always do the left side because it works best for the main mechanic, and since the walls are strong to death, spells must be used to damage them. At first, we will have mages decide beforehand where they will move in order to hit their waves. Once outside, kill the Dark Knowledge book and use the paper on the desk in the left wall, then wait until the book respawns, and then click on the desk to release the magic walls to untrap the boss. Continue to use the paper on the desk and then have a designated person, ideally with speed boots, be the one that leaves the trap and clicks on the desk. If done properly, only that person needs to leave and the rest can go out slowly. As for the EK, just wait near the boss to reset and bring it out. But if not done properly and the magic walls can be removed, then everyone needs to get out and away from the boss, as he continues to do a death attack that goes up in damage over time. This is the main risk of this fight, so pay attention to that and you will be fine. Continue to do this, mages mostly try to use spells to clear up the summons that constantly respawn. Most of the damage will come from the extra creatures, which is not too high, but it's constant damage due to the amount there is, which is why the use of spells is better. Also, as the EK, I will try to move the boss away from the team, because he has a chain attack that life drains. It's hard to avoid that from happening, but you can lower the amount of people it hits, and that's it for this fight. Go out, and then take the path south to enter the energy section, until you see the path to the right, and then take it, to run towards the fire section. For this one, there is a middle ground in between with no monsters where you will have time to swap your equipment for fire protection. This section I would say is the most scary to run through as they wall cover bombs. So to start off, the EK or whoever is first should throw walls on the passage near the stair to block off creatures from coming and hold up the spell for the rest to go downstairs. Then run together to the north and follow in this path. In this room, the EK should do a small loop around with the aggro of monsters while the rest runs through. If needed, use energy bombs to block off the Guardians of Tales. For this boss, it's just physical damage with potential of drown damage. If done properly, only 2 persons can get hit by the drown damage, which can be mitigated with using a Death Galea. Be mindful that this boss does a chain attack with heavy life drain, so the more people it hits, the harder it heals. EK take the boss to the northeast, RP stays in the middle, tanking the bone jaws, As you damage the boss, he turns into a ranged version. The goal is to have it hit the concentrated death with his beam. Everyone but one person should be on energy bombs, and then he can place it in the direction of the beam. Use the walls like we're doing to keep the boss in place, but make sure to not trap it fully, or else he teleports to the middle. The beam he casts to damage the concentrated death is what does the round damage, so EK and the person tanking the blob are the ones that have a risk of getting hit. For that, at least the one with the blob should use a drowning helmet, since it tends to be a mage, which can easily get headshot depending on the level. During this phase, the other shooters should kill the bundles to avoid getting too many of them. Their damage is not that dangerous, but once you have a bunch of them, it starts to add up. So whenever the boss is on his ranged version, the MS should use waves on the bundles, and in general the RP should be using a mass sand in between attacks, even when it doesn't hit the boss, so that he can damage the bundles over time. The boss will turn 4 times into his ranged version. After the third one, he changes right away upon taking damage, and then this final time he will need to hit the concentrated death more times. Also notice how I stand 1 square off to give the boss some room, because if I were closer, then he can trap himself with the summons, and that will make him teleport to the middle. On this phase, he will have to be in the blob 11 times before turning back to normal, and it's entirely luck based, as any retargets can make it miss the beam, but also the boss does a wave attack that damages the blob, and only the beam is what reflects the damage back to the boss, so it's normal for the boss to troll around sometimes. Also keep in mind, the concentrated death keeps XP, so avoid doing damage to it or hitting it with bombs, as that will consume more stamina. After he's back to the attack phase, the EK can move to the middle to grab the bundles as they spawn, or can stay in the corner. Usually standing in the middle ends up being worse as people get close to the boss and he heals more. Once he dies, go out and back the same way, taking the stairs up to the lobby. EK should be first to lure away the creatures from the stairs, and then go up last. For this next run, it can get pretty dangerous, so lower levels might want to just clear the way in. At the very least, use energy bombs on the first room to the right of the intersection, as it has 2 guardians and 2 inglobes, but both of them don't walk over energy, so you can avoid them chasing by doing this. Also, the room on the far right has 2 more ink blobs, so continue to use energy bombs. For this boss, you need mainly fire protection. Upon going in, I recommend to place an energy wall with a bomb like this. The creatures in here don't walk over energy, and this will stop them from going north. In the meantime, attack the book and go inside to teleport once it appears. Each person gets teleported to a room with a book on it. Attack it with spells, and after 8 seconds, you get teleported back to the main room. This time, it will be filled with monsters, and you can place 2 more bombs to make a safe path to run north for the upcoming teleports. This is optional, but it does make it easier on mages. Also, in lower level teams, the EK should stand further out without attacking the book. That way, he doesn't hit others with the AoE from the creatures and the boss. Most full teams should be done after 3 rotations. You can do a lap around the room to check if any book is still alive, and if not, then EK trap the boss by the south next to the exit teleport, then everyone attacks with a seize. This boss also has a life drain attack, so shooters stay outside of it, and that will be all. If you want to have less damage on the mages, summon a demon skeleton and place a bond on top of it. That way the creatures attack it instead, but neither the mages or the EK should be in any danger during this fight at this point. Once the boss dies, go into the teleport and kill any creatures nearby. Then everyone should use a Q to get out. It's highly recommended to do it this way, or else the run out of library tends to be harder than getting in. In this run, I got 15 silver tokens and 5 golds. The boss tend to drop mostly silver tokens, between 1 to 11 or 1 to 6 gold tokens. In some rare cases, they drop 1 gold token on top of the silvers. It's quite random, but we still prefer to gather up all the tokens and split up evenly after the bosses. This is recommended to do, but make sure it's discussed beforehand. With this, in average, you get 20 tokens per run for about 30 minutes of time, depending on the levels of course. Additionally, there is also the common drops like crystal coins and other valuables that add up to over 600k in total, making these bosses highly profitable, with another chance of making extra money with the rare drops of epaulets and storybooks, both used to get the Battle Mage add-ons, which are both quite valuable but hard to sell. Each boss drops one of the 2, with Mazzinor and Ghulosh dropping epaulets and Lokathmor and Gorzindel dropping the storybooks. And that's all I got for this breakdown of library bosses. Hopefully, if your team has the levels, you guys start doing these bosses. Or even if you are solo, if you see a team looking for a shooter, then don't be afraid to join in now that you know what to do. Thank you for watching, and a special thanks to the guild Causality, Night Star, and Tuna Hero.